everyone. This is Terri A. Wilson, and I'm here with another pop-up interview. Before I get started, I do need to apologize, letting you know I do have a cough drop in my mouth. We are still in full blooming season here in the South, and the pollen is everywhere. And I would rather have a cough drop and have a little bulge in my cheek than have a bunch of coughing fits. So the second thing is, if you have watched any of my interviews before, you will notice that my background has changed. We're in the process of changing rooms around in my house, and I'm actually going to be sharing an office with my husband. So pray for me. We'll see how that goes. And so I've got a whole new background, and we'll be changing that as it goes. If you've seen one of my interviews before, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. I know there's a lot of things you can do with your time, and I appreciate you spending some time with me. If you have not seen any of my interviews before, thanks for trying me out. I think you'll enjoy it. I'm really excited to interview my guest for tonight, and I'm excited because we've had our schedules have been a little bit crazy, and we had a little technical difficulty last week, and then this week I forgot, and so it's been kind of crazy. Nothing is scripted on these interviews. Everything is just kind of random, whatever I think about and whatever my speaker thinks about. So I'm going to go ahead and say the best way to find out about these interviews is to click the bell down at the bottom and subscribe to this channel. And right next to the bell is the thumbs up, and I know you're going to like it, so just go ahead and hit the thumbs up because I've got a great guest tonight. And speaking of, this is Harley Easton. Hi, Harley. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Why don't you start off tonight with telling us a little bit about what you write?
Sure. I write romance, primarily a little bit saucy romance. I like a little bit of snark. I like a little bit of paranormal sometimes. And
I knew we would get along well.
I knew it too. But yeah, just kind of whatever strikes my fancy. I ended up writing some romantic horror for a couple of anthologies I was in, and I don't know, I take a plot point and kind of run with it, which is what I think we all do.
Yeah. A romance horror, is that more like gothic romance?
The couple of prompts I've been given have been like, write a really spooky ghost story, but there has to be a really good romance in the middle. Or I wrote one for an anthology that was a mashup of Gone with the Wind and The Undead.
Oh, I read that one.
Really?
That anthology was awesome.
There were so many good people in it. I really, really enjoyed it. I made some good friends from authors because it was at the RWA. Mm-hmm. No, WA. It was at RT in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. That together, and I met some really amazing authors because I just loved the stories and the other people.
What story did you write?
I wrote one called Devil in the Well.
What was it about? I don't remember that one.
It was about a Civil War era Southern gentleman who he's at a slave auction with his brother, and he kind of wanders away because he just doesn't.
Yes. Okay.
And he ends up at a cabin with this really beautiful mulatto woman who he just kind of falls for. And she takes him out back to get a drink of water and tells him there's a devil in the well. And he doesn't believe her, and maybe he should.
Yeah. Oh, that came out last summer.
It might have been 2 summers ago. I think it was 2017.
Wow. That time flies. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but I'm trying to remember. I read it, I think, when I was on vacation. So that might make sense. That was an awesome book. I loved that anthology.
There were such varied stories in it. I mean, yep. And great, wonderful romance scenes. And then 3 words later, the authors just had your skin crawling. Everything from a story about bugs to ghosts to devils and demons, and for it being a mashup of The Walking Dead and Gone with the Wind, it didn't stay to the standard zombie, and it didn't stay to the standard antebellum. It just went everywhere. So wonderful.
Yeah, I loved that. Yeah, that's so cool. So now the other one is you wrote a ghost story that had a love story in it.
Yes. Actually, I've written two. I have one that's going to be coming out in an anthology that the publisher is still working on, and I believe they're slated for August, but I can't talk too much about that because it's still in process. So I wrote a love story with a ghost story weaved in for that one. And then I write with a group called the Story Penners.
Okay.
It's a group of authors that pretty much, they just donate their time, and we all edit for each other, and we all write a story on a theme. And so we make an anthology almost every year. We have the last 3 years, but we took a break this year, and we're going to do one in 2020. But they're all based on a theme, and then all the proceeds from the book go to a charity. So like our first one was Melt, and it was all stories about people who get snowed in. And the proceeds for that went to the Brain and Behavior Research Institute, which helps with mental health study and awareness and research. And then the second year we did one called Haunt, and it was all ghost stories, some romantic, some not. Most of them kind of weaved in between, but then all of the proceeds from that went to a Chicago homeless shelter.
Okay.
You know, but mine ended up capping off the book, which I totally love. That's kind of, I feel like that's a little place of honor, so I love that.
Oh, yeah.
When I put together anthologies, I call it the Kiss Goodnight, little Disneyism. But the first story really has to grab them and catch their attention. The middle story has to be kind of like the perfect, I don't know, entree, I guess, in between, so that you're full, but you're still want a little bit more, and then you have to have a little sweet at the very end. So I was happy to be the Kiss Goodnight for that one. But it was called People Who Live in Glass Sanatoriums. Yeah. I got really inspired. There are several architecturally interesting buildings in my area. We had an old insane asylum that actually got torn down because it wasn't structurally stable anymore. But so that kind of got me going. And then I have a friend who has a house that has all of these glass bricks, and it looks kind of 1980s because it was so popular then, but her house is actually from the 30s because it was a huge architectural style then. So I got this idea about an old insane asylum that they were going to rehab into a bed and breakfast and into this hotel. And to get interest in the hotel, the person who owned it was really smart, and she combined the fact that they were going to put a paranormal research center with a scientist there so they could kind of pull in the TV shows that do the ghost hauntings. And then she also had a friend who sees spirits and does spirit paintings. So they were going to have an artist in residence and a scientist. And of course, the scientist and the artist in residence don't necessarily see eye to eye because,
I'm sure,
you know, yeah, the scientist kind of thinks that what she does is really just a bunch of hooey, basically. And she doesn't really, we don't see it from her point of view so much, other than she knows a lot of people think she's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of fall for each other and have this really wildly romantic night. And then, of course, in the hustle and bustle of getting the whole place together, he says some stupid things to a blogger, and he kind of, for lack of a better term, ghosts her, even though they're living in the same building. And he's really having a problem because he's the scientist. He's supposed to find paranormal activity, and nothing's happening.
Mm.
And what he figures out is that all the paranormal activity is gravitating towards her. And so the story takes a bit of a twist. I tend to like to do that, to story and really build it, and then kind of give you a logical but unexpected. That's a big thing for me. I don't like things to just come out of the blue. I don't like those thrown in, oh, I'm just going to sidetrack you to sidetrack you. But a lot of times my characters will take those turns and I'll go, wait a minute, that wasn't where I was going.
Right. So you've done a lot of anthology work in addition to your solo work, correct?
I've actually done more anthology work than solo work at this point, because I've edited anthologies and I've been in them. And my solo work right now is really just a collection of my own short stories and my paranormal romance novella.
Okay. What are the benefits of working in an anthology?
Really, I love meeting all the authors. That's the huge thing for me. It shows me so many different styles, and it makes me think about where things go, because a lot of people don't really think about an anthology as being like a solo book where you have to have a flow. Really do. And any good editor will put it together so there's a great flow. So you can have a couple of snippets, and if you want to do them individually and out of order, you can. But if you read it straight through, you've got to have a feel where things blend from one to another.
Right.
So it really makes me think about things out.
Harley, I think I may have lost you.
Outside of my own. I froze. Got you?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think it just froze for a minute. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay.
I was rambling a little, so we'll just get back to...
You were talking about the flow of books and putting things together.
And how being a part of a project like that makes me think of things outside of my usual realm of interest, because I read science fiction and fairy tales.
Okay.
That's my main focus. That's where a lot of my background is. But I have friends that I put together these anthologies with that write primarily Westerns. And so it's an odd mix, but it stretches me as an author. And I think it gives readers a good round view of what you can do within one genre of romance, and then still have such different ways of approaching things.
My experience with anthologies before I started writing in anthologies was the Norton anthologies that I had in college. And so I didn't even realize that people were purposely putting together anthologies until I went and did some research, because I wanted to have, for my first published piece, I kind of wanted that support that an anthology with the other authors can give you. And it was perfect. I learned a lot from them. And I continue to learn a lot from working with anthologies. And like you said, it does stretch you in that I'm in one that's coming out next week where I had to do science fiction. And then there's one coming up, I think maybe next month, where it was time travel. And I'm a paranormal gal. You know, give me a shifter and a love story and I'm a happy person. I throw a vampire in there, maybe a fairy if it's a Friday. But so the time travel thing was interesting, because I had to think about how the mechanics of time travel. I'm not a Doctor Who fan, not because I hate it, I just don't ever watch it. And everybody in the anthology was very much a Doctor Who fan. And so time travel was nothing for them. And it was like, it challenged me. So it was good.
I find that interesting because I am a Whovian, but I'm also a Back to the Future fan, and I'm also a fan.
Okay, yeah, I guess I would say I'm Back to the Future. I mean, I grew up, during those times when the movies came out in the theater.
Hey, don't make that sound like so long ago. I was right there too.
So do you think it's a good way for a new author to get started, is to go out and find some anthologies?
I think it's an amazing way for an author to get started. I actually know several people that wouldn't have been authors if they hadn't gotten a chance to do something like that. People who were writing fan fiction, or who were just kind of putting down those thoughts in their head and squirreling them away in a notebook because they didn't think there'd be any interest. And you say to them, no, you've got a really good story there. And why don't you think about this call? Or, hey, I'm putting together something, and would you like to contribute? You have 6 months or a year to think about it. And I've had some people that have grown into amazingly talented writers that never would have started if they hadn't been invited to an anthology first.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely agree. Let's talk a little bit about good manners when you're in an anthology. Only because it frustrates me so much when you're working with other people and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So what are some things that you would suggest to authors so that they could be a good contributor to the whole project, not just the book? It's not just writing the story. There's a whole lot more that goes into it. So what would you suggest?
Deadlines are always a big thing. Coming from the editorial standpoint, it was really trying sometimes to just get corrections back from authors. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it's so much more than just your individual story. And once your story goes into the book, really, it's kind of up to you as much as it is the editor or the publisher to promote and to reach out and to, have it at sales that you go to, and talk to people on your social media, and to find ways to get that out to people, just because that's your work as much as anybody else's. And it's not going to go anywhere if everybody in the anthology just says, oh yeah, I'm with 5 other people and I'm done. No, it's a group project, and you should really think of it as a group project, because it can be very beneficial to use those anthologies. If you've got a publisher who's going to give it to you at cost, or if you get a couple of free copies to then turn it around and make a giveaway out of it, it's a great marketing tool for you, and it's a great way to make those connections. So reach out to the other authors, reach out to your friends, make those connections, because it is so worth it. It is so worth it.
And it's also, I think it's a good way to test drive a publisher. If you get a publisher who does not, I've done some where that's all they do is anthologies. And then I've worked with some where they do anthologies and other books. And this is a good way to test drive to see if you are comfortable working with that publisher. And then you can maybe suggest or try to work with them for your own stuff.
It really is, because I've been in a couple anthologies where the publisher was good and then something changed and all of a sudden they completely disappeared and you got no more notice. So I wouldn't really want to have a 5-year contract and all my characters stuck with a publisher if I didn't have an idea of how they worked. And I've had people who wanted me to turn around my edits in 4 hours. And I have a day job. And, much like a lot of other people, it really is difficult to be professional on that. To have to say 4 hours isn't something I can do. I'm at work right now, and I will do it as soon as I get home, but that's probably going to be 6 or 8 hours just to get the basics of what you've given me, not to even, flesh out an extra character you wanted fleshed out, or go through a couple of paragraphs and make them fit something else. If you've got a good developmental editor, you don't want to turn around something in 4 hours. You want to get really the quality that they ask for, because they've put the time in to give you thoughts to build on.
Now, you brought up something, and there is a negative side in this world with anthologies, and that is publishers who will take your money and then disappear. And I've had a couple that have done that, and it's been past the 6-month time, so I couldn't go back through PayPal and get my money back. So how do you recommend people find trustworthy publishing companies? What are some of the steps they can take?
I actually very rarely pay to be part of an anthology.
Okay.
I either get asked to be part of an anthology by people who know my writing, or I look for a company that I know has had anthologies out and have a proven track record, kind of, or anthologies that will pay even a limited amount. Those are very rare and they're hard to find. And even those, the publisher that I had a problem with backing out and just kind of disappearing, got all the stories, published the book, and then didn't pay the authors. And so that was a whole different situation, but at least they didn't give money to the company.
Mm-hmm.
So that was helpful. But yeah, finding places that are established, that have put out calls multiple times, or connecting and actually reaching out and talking to the editor, if it's a smaller press or a brand new press, and saying, what are you looking for? What is your background? I want to put together a good submission, but just kind of, you can feel out a lot about a person from an email sometimes if you just take the time to put together a nice query letter in advance, and get it back. But the big thing is I find places that have a track record of actually putting out quality work.
Yeah, I've done both kinds of anthologies. I've done for-profit anthologies and for charity anthologies. And I've done anthologies where I've paid to be in that, and that goes for the book cover, some marketing that's done afterwards. And then I've done some where they said, there is no charge. We're doing this. The one company the one anthology that didn't work out, I think I knew early. I just didn't want to, it was that gut feeling, and I just didn't follow it. And I should have done that. The other ones that I've paid for, they've always been very upfront, 10% is going to this, 20% is going to this. This is how your money is being spent. And it's not a huge amount of money either.
Well, and for that, that's a great way to go about it. As long as you've got a detailed plan of where your money is going,
right?
Had that, I'd totally be willing to pay. But there are so many, hey, join this contest and pay your money, and we don't tell you where your money is going to go, and we don't tell you what's going on, and it's not going towards a charity, and it's not going towards a winner of a contest. You just kind of pay into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why I haven't done the paid anthologies. Now, you said you've done for-profit and charity. Do you have a preference of which kind you join?
No, I did one charity. I and I should put a plug in because it came out last week. Go buy it. It's called Let's Try Love. But this is not about me. It's not about me. It's about you, Harley. So let's go back.
But the book looks really good because I looked it up on Amazon.
I enjoyed working with those people, and I felt that this was a good charity to get behind. It was a little boy who definitely has some huge medical problems, and his mom is a single mom, and they have established a 501c to help out with all his stuff, and she's tacked on to some bigger charity organizations. The for-profit ones, honestly, I haven't necessarily seen a big profit. When you are with in an anthology and you're charging 99 cents, you get 35 cents off of that. And if you're splitting it between 7 authors, now you're looking at 5 cents a book that you're getting. And, but with each of the anthologies I've done, I've gotten new readers, I've gotten new fans, and I almost see it as much of a marketing technique as anything else.
I totally agree. That's part of why I think new authors should put time and effort into anthologies.
Mm-hmm.
More established authors seem to be doing anthologies where they take their own characters and go to another author's world, or all of them dump a bunch of characters in one town. Or I really like what I've seen where like 10 people will all take a story and they'll work on it and they'll continue the story with characters from each of those books.
Two Christmases ago, I came across, it wasn't an anthology, it was actually 7 novellas, but it was one story. And it was a Christmas story, and everybody took a part of the story and continued it through these 7 books. And I loved that idea. Absolutely.
I did the same thing. It was 2 Christmases ago, and someone pointed me towards one that was the 12 Days of Christmas, and it followed 12 different couples through the books, one for each of the 12 Days of Christmas. And it was a really great idea, but they were shorter. It wasn't an anthology per se. It was more short novellas. But yeah, that seems to be kind of a trend.
Yeah, and I think anytime, we as authors, and I can't speak for you, I can only speak for myself, but a lot of people that I talk to, we write in isolation. And we spend more time alone and with our characters through these voices that speak in our head. I mean, it's no wonder we're not all schizophrenic, walking around like the zombies that we write about. But when you go out there and you leverage the fan bases of other authors, and you leverage their knowledge, and you glean from what they know, and you give what you know. It's not just take, it's give too. I just see it as a win-win situation.
I totally agree. And actually, not just the writing, but 2 weekends ago now, I guess, I had some friends coming in from out of town, and they happen to be authors. They write books. And I was talking to them, and I was talking to a friend who's an audiobook narrator. And then I was talking to someone I had just met via social media. And we all ended up getting together and doing a book reading at a library, because all of us were interested in getting some new readers and connecting with some new people. And so you don't have to wait for a publisher or a large group to get together. It's easy enough to do that kind of promo by yourself. All it took was we got some snacks, and I worked with the people at the library and coordinating schedules. It really other than the books that I purchased so that I could sell them and sign them, it didn't cost me that much money.
Yeah. Cool. We could sit and talk about books all day, but you mentioned something before we started recording, so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that. What are some of the things that you do in your spare time?
Spare time is a relative term. I've been known to sing, to act, to craft. I mean, family is always a thing, but yes, as far as my own personal hobbies, writing is one of many.
Before we started recording, you mentioned cosplay.
Oh yeah, I do that occasionally too.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh sure. My cosplay actually started because I'm fascinated with costuming and theater. Just that's a long time thing, but I was going to Ace Con in Chicago, and I got tickets to take a picture with Tom Hiddleston, which it was amazing.
Totally.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God. Yes, for cons, I have been in the same breathing space as Tom Hiddleston, David Tennant, and John Barrowman within 6 months. So I
can't. I'm trying to touch you,
girl,
but I can't touch you through the screen.
But my big thing was it was my first time doing something like that, and I have terrible anxiety, and I really went, I can't meet him as myself, I'll freak out. But if I put on a hot pink wig and a really big dress, I can do this. And so I went as Rose Quartz from Steven Universe, because she is a bigger character and I am a bigger girl, and I felt comfortable doing that, but very pretty and empowered because she's a very strong character. And then my friend, who actually didn't know the show very well, teamed up with me and went as Amethyst, and we have a picture of the two of us, and her in hot purple and me in this huge curly pink wig, and Tom in the middle. And my favorite part of that con was we walked into the photo booth and he went, "Look at you!" And it was the best feeling ever. So yeah, cosplay is fun, and it does not matter that you are not a perfect size and that you're not an actor.
Absolutely.
Totally be non-traditional and cosplay. It's worth
Absolutely. My children have gotten, my husband and I, into cosplay. We're doing more of it. I never thought I would do it, but last year we have a comic book convention in our town, and I went as the green girl from In and Out. She's the one with the attitude. I can't think of her name. Yet cartoon movie In and Out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. You went as Envy.
Disgust.
Yeah.
Yes. I went as Disgust, and I painted my skin, my arms. I had the costume, the whole 9 yards.
That's awesome.
For Halloween, this past Halloween, my husband he's shaved his head. And so normally he has just a little bit of a buzz, but for Halloween, he shaved everything off, and he went as Drew, and I dressed up as Lucy. And so that was a lot of fun. And I'm thinking this year for the comic book convention, I want to go as Poppy from Trolls.
Fun!
She's my favorite.
I have
character.
A really cute picture of you and her at some, I'm thinking, amusement park?
Universal Studios, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids are in that we're too cool for anything phase, but don't look at us because you'll embarrass us, and don't sing and don't breathe the same air we're breathing, Mom. And so we were at Universal Studios, and they play the music when the characters come out. And so here she comes out, and I was like, "Oh, let's look at our picture." And I thought my girls were behind me, and they were like way over there, and I'm running up to her. Yeah, I ran up to Hello Kitty, and my kids were just like, "Ugh." And we did the Transformers. I took a picture with the Transformer.
Nice.
And then over at the Harry Potter world, they have a lot of people who do cosplay. And they had two people, I don't know if they were cast members or just people that were at the park, who dressed up as Teeny and her sister from the new Harry Potter movies.
Oh yeah.
It's the two sisters.
Right.
They had dressed up as them. And it was really cute. So I took our picture with them. So yeah, I'm actually really liking cosplay a lot.
It is very time consuming.
Yeah.
But it is amazingly fun. And I know people who do it and put an insane amount of work in. My two friends, one of the ones who went and she was Amethyst with me, she and a couple of her friends went as Disney Princess Jedis. So like her friend was Meg from Hercules with a lightsaber, and they made her skirt like into pants. And my friend went as Merida from Brave, and she had light arrows that she made. There's some amazing pictures, but yeah. Plus, those cons are a great place to find all kinds of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and people watch. It's awesome.
And I find that people are very open and they embrace everybody. And I never felt uncomfortable. My kids, no one ever made fun of their costumes or looked down at them. A lot of times they would, like one year my daughter went as, I should know all these names, but the girl from Justice League that wears the dark hood, and she has the little diamond in her forehead. I don't know, somebody who's watching this, comment down below if you know who I'm talking about. I cannot remember her name, but she went as that. And there were these older kids, probably 20-ish, that had gone dressed as a Justice League. And so when they saw her, they're like, oh, come on over here. We want to take your picture. We want you to be part of the group. And my daughter was like floating on cloud 9 that these older people were even paying attention to her. It was awesome. And then my youngest did sword art, SOA, sword something, an anime. And people recognized her costume as who she was. And so she was just all excited too.
It's a great feeling. The rose quartz costume, like I said, I did it for 2 reasons. It was my wedding dress. I got a divorce, and so part of what I did was turn this beautiful dress into Rose Quartz's dress. I blinged it out with all the pink that I needed to, and we're walking down Navy Pier because, of course, the con is at the very end of Navy Pier from where you get out of the car. And it is a beautiful windy day in Chicago, and we're walking down with me in this giant floofy wedding dress and her with a whip on her side because the character has a whip. And this guy walks past us, turns around, he kind of walks past us. You can see he walks back. He goes, oh my God, you're from Steven Universe. And we're like, oh, thanks, you recognized us. And he walks past, and then we had to stop. And I don't remember if I had tripped on my dress or what happened, because it was really easy to trip on that dress. But he comes running back going, I have to take a picture.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen.
Cool.
And then the great part was we found a girl who did a lapis lazuli cosplay. And so we have pictures with all these various people who did Steven Universe cosplays, and they all came up and we did pictures in big groups. So yeah, they are cosplayers. It's gotten to be such an open group. People are just so welcoming. It's like, hey, you're a dork, I'm a dork, this is great.
Totally. I wish there had been cosplay when I was a kid, or especially when I was in high school. I think it would have helped a lot.
I think that's what happened is all of us grew up wishing that we had something like that. So we just made it.
Yeah.
You know, now that we're older and we rule the world or something, we just make all the stuff we wanted to have.
Yeah. Well, Harley, you're not going to believe this, but our time's up.
Oh, no way.
I know. It wasn't too painful, was it?
Not at all.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Terri. I appreciate it.
And thank you very much. And like I said at the beginning, the best way to find out about the pop-up interviews, the whole concept was that they were just random interviews that just happened whenever it was convenient for me and for my person who I'm interviewing. The best way to find out about that is, one, go to my website, terriawilson.com, and hit the link that says pop-up interview. If you are an author, a blogger, or somebody who offers personal assistance to authors, or you're just somebody who loves books, which is a lot of people, and you want to just come talk about books, hit that, fill that form out, and let's talk. It's a great, fun thing to do. The other thing to do is hit the bell, subscribe to this channel. Anytime I post a video, you will get notification in your inbox that says, hey, there's a new video, go check it out. I'm going to also post all of Harley's links down below, so you can go stalk her, you can go love on her, you can go buy this book, go check out. Is the Gone with the Wind zombie one still available?
I believe it is through Riverdale Avenue Press.
Okay, awesome. That one, I know all the rest of them, I'm sure are wonderful, but I know that one's good because I remember reading that one, and that was so much fun. Thank you, and everybody have a great night.